The program aired the next week. By the following Monday, my inbox had received 70 fresh queries. Brandon's firm experienced its worst quarter in 6 years. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. Because all of this, all of the expansion, planning and leverage, was only the beginning. The big move was about to happen. And this time, it wasn't for business. It was personal. It happened on a Tuesday, and it was not an accident I selected that day on purpose. It was midweek, calm, and came immediately before my father's company's quarterly review meeting. The exact type of meeting I used to run. Brandon once failed to arrange a meeting until 15 minutes before it began, which he blamed on an email filter issue. It had been 8 months since I walked out of that office with nothing but pride and a resounding quiet in my chest. 8 months of starting from zero, watching Brandon bumble his way through my former role, burning bridges quicker than he could build them. Dad stood behind him, arms folded like everything was okay. But suddenly something was extremely wrong. Forge Logistics had burst. We were no longer the scrappy underdogs, we were the genuine deal. 20 clients, a warehouse lease in the works, 2 modest delivery fleets under contract, a devoted team of dispatchers and planners, and a reputation we did not promote. We did not need to. Our work speaks for itself. Brandon's firm, which was owned by his father, was bleeding. They had lost about half of their long-term contracts. 2 important investors had backed out. Their driver retention was the lowest it had ever been, and their books were disorganized. Brandon couldn't fathom the convoluted web of overlapping vendor agreements, variable payment conditions, and sloppy invoicing. They were vulnerable, but I didn't want to kick them while they were down. Not in an apparent way. I preferred something more lyrical. So I asked my dad to lunch. He was astonished to hear from me. I did not anticipate this. He stated this when we sat down at the same Greek restaurant where we'd previously had dozens of meals and where he told me I'd had enough. I thought we should talk, I remarked nonchalantly, biting into my euro. See how things are going, he said softly. Brandon has been adjusting. I did not react. I flashed him a tight-lipped smile. He looked up. I've heard about Forge. You are doing great. Better than well, I answered. We are growing. He shifted uneasily. I could see it in his eyes. The creeping awareness that I was not here to recollect. I was there to show him I wanted to provide something. When I mentioned a way out, he raised an eyebrow. A road out of what? Your mess, I replied bluntly. You lost more than $1.5 million in contracts this quarter. Your investors are nervous. Your employee churn is hurting you. Operational consistency. And Brandon is not a leader. He is a liability. His jaw tensed, but he did not interrupt. I am willing to buy out 2 of your largest remaining accounts. They have already approached me, by the way. They simply didn't want to jump without knowing how clean the split would be. I'll make it as painless and generous as possible. You can take the cash and rearrange what remains, whether to rebrand or not. It doesn't matter to me. You're trying to gut us, he remarked quietly. No, I responded. I'm giving you a chance to save anything because if I wanted to gut you, I'd simply let Brandon continue. We sat silently for a moment. My father looked at me, actually looked at me, and for the first time, I noticed something in his expression that was not arrogance or contempt. I saw dread, but he was not prepared to accept defeat. Not yet. I'll talk to Brandon, he responded stiffly. We will take your offer into consideration, I said, nodding. Do that, but I already knew he wouldn't. So I prepared for the final push. It started with the leak. I forwarded the materials Marco had provided me, including the damning email chains, transaction logs, and audio recordings, to one of the remaining investors, but not anonymously. I signed my name and added a cover letter in which I gently expressed my worries about mismanagement, incompetence, and ethical red flags that jeopardize not just operational success, but also legal stability. The investor replied within hours. Thank you for your transparency, he wrote. We will perform an internal audit promptly. The following morning, 3 top staff members quit. Brandon shared a vague, optimistic LinkedIn status about reorganizing with purpose. The next week, 2 additional clients jumped ship and joined Forge. Then came the board meeting. I wasn't invited and I didn't need to be there. Sophia was. She texted me after it was over. He's gone. They are eliminating Brandon from operations. The board voted 4-1. I looked at the message for a long time. Not because I was startled, but because of the one individual who continued to vote for Brandon. Dad went down with the ship, even though it was already taking on water. But Brandon didn't leave quietly. 3 days later, he arrived at my workplace. He stormed in like a comedy character, crimson in the face and virtually vibrating with rage. My crew halted mid-call, taken aback by the interruption. I stood quietly, motioned for him to enter the corridor, and then closed the glass door behind us. You think you've won? He snarled. You think this is yours now? When I looked at him, all I saw was a youngster drowning in a pool he had never been trained to swim in. I don't have to think it, I said. I constructed it. You attempted to play founder and were buried inside the first 8 months. That's not winning or losing, it's just reality. You sabotaged me. No, I said quietly. You sabotaged yourself. I just stopped saving you. He opened his mouth to respond, but I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there in a stillness thick with defeat. Following then, the repercussions spread quickly. The audit results were made public within a month. Investors sued for deception. Customers requested reimbursements. Vendors cut ties. Dad attempted to restore control, but the damage was irrevocable. They sold everything they could, reduced the workforce to a skeleton crew, and the firm was closed within 3 months. There were no news releases or headlines, just stillness. Where a firm had existed, there is now a ghost. I did not dance on the grave, post cryptic social media remarks, or brag during interviews. That was not the point. The goal was clarity, freedom, and truth. One evening, I sat in my new workplace, which was actually a genuine office rather than a folding table. There was laughing outside my door as my crew shared refreshments and stories. My whiteboard was full with ideas, expansion plans, and client names that I had worked hard to get. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Dad. I did not know how to let go. You were correct. I was simply not prepared to acknowledge it. I gazed at it for a time. Then I flipped the phone face down.